All right, coming out of closed session, and we're going to proceed with a couple items that were removed from the consent agenda. Councilman Hernandez, you had requested that number 10 be moved?
Yeah, so I voted against this one when it came up last week, so I pulled it off so I can vote against it again.
Which was number 10?
All right, any other comments, questions from council?
Motion to approve item number 10.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve item number 10. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those dissenting?
No.
Motion carries. Number 18 was the other that we pulled from the consent agenda. We're going to move that one forward to the next section, which is section L for public hearings. So item number 18.
Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. This case before you is to rezone the property located at 10329 Kingsbury Drive from CN1 Neighborhood Commercial District to RSTF Two-Family District. The property, two-family district, the property is 0.826 acres in size, and it is platted. The applicant is Steve and Lacey Avalos. Next slide, please. The purpose of this rezoning request is to allow for the construction of a detached single-family structure. This property is part of the Northwest Area Development Plan, and the ADP and the future land use map designates this area for medium-density residential. To the north of the subject property are residential parcels zone RSTF. To the south of the subject property are vacant parcels zone CN1 and RM3. To the east of the property is residential parcels
excuse
zone.
me.
I'm sorry.
Mayor Pro Tem, did somebody pull this one? This is item 18, correct?
This is item 18. It was pulled because it needs a public hearing.
Oh, okay. Got you.
To the east of the
Motion to approve as soon as the public hearing's over.
Okay. Should I continue or?
I guess so. I didn't get a second. Second.
We have a motion to approve and seconded. All those in, wait, I'm sorry. Public comment, we'll open it up for public comment.
Yes.
Do we have anyone here that'd like to speak to item number 18? All right, we'll close public comment. We have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to, we've already done number 20. Moving on to number 21.
Motion to approve.
No, it's a,
21, Michael. Yeah, but I didn't hear. Did you hear second?
Second.
There's second from Klein.
Item number 21, we have a motion and a second for approval.
Yes, any public comment?
Public comment? Anyone here for public comment on item number 21? We'll close public comment. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 22, Mr. Raymond.
Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. The purpose of this resolution is to authorize amendment number 3 to the professional services contract with Pape Dawson Engineers to conduct additional Capital Improvement Advisory Committee meetings in the amount of $190,100 and to extend the current service contract to December 31st, 2024. This resolution is in direct response to the SEAC members requesting additional meetings to allow more discussion development and understanding of the information that was before them. In addition to those additional meetings, we've already held 4 workshops with the SEAC members, and we anticipate 4 more in the new calendar year. We're having additional public hearings with council also and with planning commission. 2 workshops have been held, as you know. 2 are planned for the new year, as well as 2 meetings with planning commission, 2 evening public hearings, and of course, city council meetings as well. Next slide, please. This is the history of this contract. The first, initially, the contract was $2.3 million. Basically, the first request there for a contract amendment was the 1.1 or 1.2 because the consultant needed to run H&H models for our stormwater master plan, hydrology and hydraulics. The second additional service request is for additional meetings for SEAC. They wanted us to uncouple the master plans and look at one master plan individually and not together. And of course, the last one, as I said, is for additional SEAC meetings as well as additional public meetings. Next slide, please. Also, we request to extend the contract to December 31st of 2024. Next slide. SEAC and staff recommends approval, and I stand by for any questions. SEAC Capital Improvement Advisory Committee, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Raymond. Any questions or comments from council?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Let's open it up for public comment. Anyone here that wants to comment on item number 22? We'll close public comment. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Item number 23, one reading ordinance on London area annexations and rezoning of County Road 22, London Ranch Estates and Charlotte Estates. Mr. McGinn.
Good afternoon, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. Daniel McGinn, Director of the Planning and Community Development Department. Also helping out with today will be Al Raymond, Director of Development Services. The next few items, there's a good bit of overlap, so the 2 of us will be handling the presentation. But this next item is a one reading ordinance annexing and rezoning County Road 22, along with 2 private subdivisions, one called London Ranch Estates and the other Charlotte Estates. Next slide, please. This is the location. The yellow line represents the section of road. It's a 4-mile section starting at County Road 43 and runs west to County Road 51. It's approximately 1 mile south of Weber or County Road 43, just kind of low below London School District there, and Crosstown kind of splits it to the kind of not in the middle, but 1 mile to the east and then 3 miles to the west there. Next slide, please. This is a look at not only the road, but then the 2 private subdivisions that we have. The Charlotte Estates is the green to the right. The London Ranch Estates is the red. Charlotte Estates has not started construction yet. They have a plat that's been approved, but they have not started any work. The red one has begun construction of some of the infrastructure. It's not complete, but there is work that's in progress. Next slide, please. This is a look at some of the schedule or how we've kind of moved forward with this request to annex not only the 2 private subdivisions, but the road. We started in the beginning of the year, with working with the county and then again with the 2 private projects. So in order to annex the 2 private projects, we had to have the road first. And so we had those discussions with the county. The county did take action in August to move forward with or request that the city annex and take over the County Road 22. And so we were then able to then move the 2 private projects forward because we now were connected via that road. So we could now bring those all together as one package. And then, of course, we had different, in October and November, we had direction here from the council to prepare the service plan. And then in November, we had the public hearings. And then here we are today with the one reading ordinance to approve all of the annexations along with the 2 zoning requests to bring the projects in. Next slide, please. Some of the background. So as you're aware, the annexation laws changed pretty substantially during the session in 2019. So it's made it very difficult for cities to do any kind of annexation. Most of them have to be at the request of the applicant. So that's kind of the why. We knew a lot of these projects in the London area have received city services and water and have not been annexed, and at this point probably will not be annexed, the ones that are out there today. And so we also had kind of a policy shift, and if we're going to be offering these different city services, water in particular, we wanted to then now bring those into our community as, you know, obviously they're taking advantage of all the services that we provide here in the city. And so moving forward, we wanted to annex those that would be receiving city water. And so there is a section of state law that allows for the county road right-of-way annexation, and so we're following those. It's a little bit different than the private. That's why it's taking a little bit longer to do the road versus the private. And I've covered those last two bullets already. Next slide, please. Just a little bit of detail about the two projects. So they're both very similar in size, about 82 acres. This London Ranch Estates has 108 lots. The roads are proposed to be private. They're anticipating a build-out of 5 to 10 years, and this is information provided by the applicant that the unit price would be about $650,000. And that's just kind of a layout. The north end, they connect into County Road 22, and then there is a proposed connection there at the south. That road's not built. County Road 22 is in place and was recently improved by the county. The road there, its connection would still need to be constructed. Next slide, please. This is the proposed layout of the Charlotte Estates, again, connecting on the north end to County Road 22. They also have a connection to the County Road 49 to the east, along with that future road that would be built on the south edge. The similar amount of lots, 110 in this one, and they're proposing a price or estimating a price of about $600K per home. Next slide. And so as part of the policy that we have, or the guidelines for annexation adopted by council, there's provision in there that we run a fiscal impact analysis on each of the private subdivisions that we annex. So we've done this for each one that we bring in, and this is about what we're seeing in that single family is kind of a break even or neutral kind of situation to the city. And this is just looking at the general fund as far as, you know, revenue that's brought in via ad valorem taxes versus the services that are offered via the general fund. That's police, fire, library, parks, those types of things. And so at this project for the London Ranch, we're showing, and this, you know, plus or minus 100,000 is, and this is very high level kind of analysis that we do, but this would bring in at those levels of home value would bring in about 20,000 at full build out to the city. Next slide, please. The Charlotte Estates is just a little bit into the negative, and that's really that we're kind of seeing that value of that 600K home is about that break even point. So this is just a small loss, but really negligible when you're kind of thinking about, you know, the amount of you know, revenue that's coming in. So next slide, please. Finally, we're recommending approval of basically the annexation of the road, the two projects, and then we're proposing that both projects come in with the requested zoning. One was the RS-22 and the other was the RS-15, both consistent with what we're seeing out there. These projects, for the most part, all have to be half-acre or larger lots because they're all going to be on septic. And so those are basically the 5 actions that are within this one ordinance. So with that, Al and I can take any questions.
Councilor Hernandez.
Sorry, just a couple questions. Can you explain why we're doing this on a single vote as opposed to the normal 2-vote process?
There was a companion item, and I don't know if has that been discussed already?
Yeah, it's gone.
Okay. There was a companion item for a reimbursement agreement, and so that's just a 1-reading ordinance. And so in order to kind of expedite and make sure, you know, as far as the applicant getting her approvals this year, we were hoping that this could be done in 1 reading so that they could be done and approved and can get underway with the project. The reimbursement agreement now is tabled or into a future meeting, and so if the council prefers, this could also be read in a 2nd reading with just be a minor amendment to the current ordinance. So that is something that if the council would like to do, we can. No problem, we can move that to the 2nd reading to the January 9th. We were just moving it up to, because the reimbursement only takes 1.
Okay, we haven't gotten in the second item yet with the reimbursement, but is there, as I recall, there was some sort of issue with not modifying the master plan associated with that, or?
Yeah, we'll discuss it at that item unless you want to discuss it now.
Well, I mean, this kind of reflects on the reason why this is going to a single reading instead of two, right?
Of course.
Okay, so maybe you can kind of,
Okay, sure, I will certainly, the master plan, the reimbursement agreement associated with this project. Reimbursement agreement associated with this project is preceding the master plan amendment. The UDC requires the master plan amendment to be approved by Planning Commission and Council before reimbursements are brought to the table. What I had and I, talked to our city attorney, and I'm asking council to hear the reimbursement, and if approved, it'll be approved pending the amendment being approved by Planning Commission and Council in January of next year.
is there a rush on getting the reimbursement request in? I mean,
It is, it's the applicant's request. We're getting all of this done by the end of the calendar year, and so we were facilitating as we usually do.
no, let me ask this question a little bit differently. You're not going to get reimbursed from the trust fund because the trust fund has no money.
Correct.
And it's not like it's going to happen, the installation of the pipeline's going to happen within the next month.
Correct.
Is there a reason why you need to have the reimbursement voted on this year, even though you won't get access to the funding and, the actual construction
For
is
years to come, that's correct.
Right.
But this is just a request made by the applicant to us to move this
Okay, I
forward.
understand that, but I mean, if you're. Okay, so the reimbursement has to be for the lender, he mentioned, is that the case, or?
I'm sorry, say again?
Okay, like I said, I'm asking the question because you're not gonna have everything in place even if you get the voted on the reimbursement, right?
Correct.
So why the rush if there's no money in the trust fund in order to reimburse?
I only can respond to my part of it is that we're facilitating when the public comment is open,
Okay.
the applicant is here and she can probably respond to that better.
Okay,
Sir.
that'll help because, I mean, I'm just saying we're going through this process and
Understood.
I'm not seeing the need for the rush.
Understood.
And that's separate from the annexation, but the annexation is getting a single vote instead of two separate ones. So I just want to make sure we're following our
Right,
processes
and
the correct
just to be
way.
clear, it's a one read for annexation, it's also one read for the reimbursement.
I'm with you.
Okay,
I'm
gotcha.
just, the rush on the other one, not the annexation,
Understood.
is the question and that's forcing the annexation to be rushed, right?
Understood, yes.
Okay, so I just, want to make sure we're all clear on the same page.
Councilman Hernandez, would it be okay if I open public comment and let's get the public comment
Let's-
feedback and then I'll
Well,
return
I mean,
back to you?
we're not on the following
Correct.
item, so, I mean,
But I still have to open 23
Yes,
for
yes.
public comment, so let's see if,
no,
We hadn't
no,
yet.
no motion. We're asking questions here.
So I had a comment before we go. This was a request made by the property owners because they're on a time crunch. And so I went and met with staff and they're on a time crunch to get this information before the end of the year to their lenders. And so this had been a process that's been hung up for a very long time. The county drug their feet on it that's not the problem. The county didn't approve to go forward with the annexation for 5 or 6 months, and that put them way behind on their project. And so they've been playing catch up with the city now to try to get this done. But the reason they are is because they're in a financial issue to get this before their lender, and all of these steps had to be approved. And Dan, you can explain this better than I can. We had 2 methods here we could have gone down, but this was the one that y'all recommended that we do so that we could get this pushed forward. So maybe you can clarify that.
I think you captured it well. It was really, and the timing and looking at the dates, we were able to get it done this year just because there was such a gap between this meeting and the next one. It was, 30 or 40 days is pretty big. hit to anyone that's, working on a project. So we felt like this was a way to get there, was the reimbursement. Those are typically one reading, and then we moved as quickly as we could via state law in the last 3 months with the different meetings we had. And so this was just an avenue where we could get that done. And we felt we did have, we have discussed this item in previous council meetings. And so there has been opportunities for the public to weigh in. And so we were comfortable with recommending just the one in this case.
Okay, just to follow up on this, and this is just the zoning and the annexation for this particular item. It would still have to go through Planning Commission for the plating process and everything associated with the roads and,
Correct, Councilman, but London Ranch has already had their preliminary plat approved, and they've already had their final plat approved.
so all the
So
plats
what-
have been done before it was zoned?
Sure. So, well, yes, Charlotte Estates has not moved forward to that level yet, as I'm not quite sure why, but and really, if you look at how the sites are located, this developer, the London Ranch developer, was expecting the Charlotte Estates developer to pull all of the infrastructure to their property so that it's just kind of a stone's throw to her property. Since this developer, the Charlotte Estate developer, is on hold or whatever, then she needed to, that also kickstarted a lot of things she needed to do to make her development work. So that's kind of why we are here today.
Okay, I understand that we're going through this because of some of the situations that as they exist. It just seems like everything's a little backwards.
And that may be true. That may be true, right? And the primary purpose, and gosh, I hate to say this, but the primary purpose of my job is to facilitate, right? Even if you're in a ditch or you're upside down and backwards, I take it from there and see how I can get you to where you want to go, right? And that's what we've done in this case, that I do for anybody who's in a sticky wicket or in a jam, and they always say, well, development services can help do this or this, or even the councilman at many times says, you're not an ambassador. Well, we try to facilitate, right? And we look at our codes, we look at the UDC and say, how can we get from where we are today to get to where they need to be? And so this is the path we work with legal, and this is the path we use to move forward on this development. Even though, as you mentioned, it seems kind of backwards, and this is, of course, many will say, hey, this is not how we standardly do it, but I assure you, right, we dot our I's and cross our T's, and we're moving forward and getting this development to the finish line.
Okay, and let me say, I'm for the annexation. I think we should go about this because there's no other way we can do it except the requested annexation. This is kind of what the state has left us with, right? So, because I'd rather have them have fire protection and, city services, solid waste. Otherwise, you'd have to contract that themselves. It's a challenge that way. Plus, I would prefer us to keep that funding going through so we can maintain the fire department and stuff like that. So I think this is the right way to do it, but you're going to have to kind of smooth this out with other developers that see this as an issue on how this was all kind of came about, because it is kind of backwards. So I'll leave it at that. We'll go.
Okay.
Can't table it because it would be.
move forward.
Councilman Barrera.
It's funny when we agree. I can tell you right now, there's a mushroom head a cloud going over my head. Now, I've said countless times that it seems that I've obviously been developer friendly, and I've been frustrated, I don't know how many times, the loss of revenue that gets lost to the developer, the loss of revenue that we lose as a result of not allowing the development to move forward because of bureaucracy. Now, my frustration is, and I've said before, there's interest payments that have to be made, that the developer, the risk that they take on because it's stuck on somebody's desk. But I remember being frustrated over the development that it took Richard Voss over a year because we weren't going to allow him to be able to have access to his property from the other property from the London town. We required him to be able to have access, to have his own access. And I mean, I would venture it was in excess of 6 figures of interest payments that he had to make because of the fact that we held him up. We held up that development. And I remember being so excited when we finally got it to a point where he could develop it. I remember the challenges that we had with regard to the annexation of the road, and this was before your time. What is it, County Road, the one that goes into London town that's owned by
County Road
DR?
33, yes.
Yes, exactly. I remember that frustration because, and and it's funny, I'm gonna pick on this one more time, it's kind of petty. It says District 3 on here, it's District 5. Okay? And the only reason is, is because the press called me because it said District 3, and they wanted to meet me out there. All right? And then I with all courtesy, I gave them Councilman Hernandez's phone number, but they still wanted to meet me out there, and what is it? And so I went out there and I saw open ditches. I saw, so it has been platted.
Yes,
Okay, so it has been platted. There's not going to be sidewalks, it appears.
correct.
And like I said, there's been times that I've advocated for other developers, and we're inconsistent here. And that's really what's driving me insane, is all of a sudden now, man, you were there on this, as Gil likes to call it, on the CCISD debacle. Okay? And I remember the mushroom cloud going off on my birthday, and I called Peter and called him out of a budget meeting and used some very colorful words, and even then, we held them back a year. It's even worse because that's the taxpayers' money. So I understand, I have empathy for them, but what are we going to do now, Al? Peter? What are we going to do now? Are we going to make accommodations or whatever? I'm for that. But now we're going to be put in a position now. We held out. Mr. Masagashi's out there in the audience, and I remember the situation that we gave him because we didn't like the methodology with regard to the concrete he was using, and that we required him to bond it for 10 years because we didn't want to approve and we held him up for in excess of a year because we had all this turnover in public works.
So let me respond to you, Councilman, because you made a statement and I want to correct that statement, right? If you're developing in the county, and right now until that property is annexed, it's in the county, you are allowed to do county rule sections. And I want to make, and I know Mr. Masakashi is going to come up here and make a statement, but in the UDC, right, in 21 and in 18, we approved 2 residential developments in Flower Bluff, and you know what they are? Open ditches and county rule sections. We did that for Caroline Heights, the one that we denied, and we came back when he got the county to annex that, I can't remember the road, but Caroline Heights is also a county rule section. It's allowed in the UDC, right? Even Charlotte Estates, the next door neighbor, yes, they could do what Gemini Acres did and have underground infrastructure, curbs and sidewalks, but they could also say, hey, I want to do county rule sections. It's not, regardless of what you may hear, right, it's not for the city to dictate if someone's in the county and they're able to do that in the county, and yes, she may have started construction with quote unquote not a permit from the city of Corpus Christi, but she started a permit. She started doing what she could do and that was allowed to do in the county rule streets. So yes, that if you drive into that neighborhood, it's a big, wide, open boulevard with wide, huge drainage challenge on each side or drainage ditches, whatever you prefer. But she's allowed to do that. So we haven't. Not that I take issue with anything you said, because we try to facilitate, and you basically said, hey, some things we're doing, some things we're not. We're not We don't do different things for different people. We allow you to do what's allowed in the UDC. Now, as you know, in January, all of you know in January, we're going to start looking at the UDC. And these issues may come up. And even I was talking to Mr. Masagachi, if you want to say, hey, we're not going to allow county sections within the city, great. But right now, it's allowed.
So we're going to allow it, and then we're going to annex it after the fact, because they've already begun. And then right now, the access, I guess that's my frustration. I keep thinking back to the Voss development, and I forgot what it was called. What is it?
Oso Vista.
Yeah,
something
Oso
like
Vista,
that.
yeah.
But I
So-
thought we allowed him to go through the London Town development. I didn't know. I didn't think it took like 6 months to make that.
Yeah, it took a
happen.
while. It took a while. I remember meeting with him, and what is it? I met with him during the last campaign cycle. So,
It's done, I want to talk.
okay, and it really, and once again, and I know, and the only reason I went out there, once again, is because I was asked to. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gone, and then I'm looking at the access. So we're going to agree, you're recommending that that we follow through with this, and the access is going to be limited on the backside for, now we're looking at a total of 200 units.
So the access is not going to be limited, but like, again, and I had conversations with the developers, like
And
everyone
maybe I
else.
have Richard's deal wrong, it's just what I remember.
And let me explain to you. We said here, Dan said it's 80 acres, right? Most developers would have said, I want a preliminary plat of 80 acres, but when I come in with my final plat, I'm going to do 20 and then 20 and then 20. This applicant chose to final plat the entire 80 acres. So what does that mean? That means that she has to build that secondary access. She doesn't, and I'm saying she, the developer has to build that secondary access. And you know when she has to build it? When she gets to 50, when she goes over 50 homes, right? But until she gets to that level, she can push that access off until she gets to that threshold, because the 50 threshold is what the fire department requires. So she's still in line, right? Even though there's angst about when it should be built and all of that, she's still in line to go from 1 to 50 before she has to put in that.
So why, assuming that we gave the Oso Vista, right, Oso Vista, Richard Voss? Assuming that we gave him that access, and we could have, I could be mistaken. I remember the consternation of him having to go and redesign and the request that we made, and that was with regard to the plat, and he was requesting annexation. So I guess I don't understand, and maybe I'm a layman that I don't understand how this works. It's just, I'm kind of frustrated, and Peter, I had it out with you once on another issue where I was saying that, we're making accommodations for one council member, and I'm sorry, council member, I want to help. It's just, I'm really frustrated because here I am, I try to follow a process, and right now, I just don't feel that I'm there. I'm more frustrated with you guys than I am with.
And I want to make a comment about the Oso Vista. I can't remember the name of the street, and Mr. Dice may know, he's in the back, but when he can use that as his entrance to his site. All of the citizens who live in London Town are going to hate it. Hey, look at these construction trucks driving through this street. However, he has the same limitations. He can only get to 50, go beyond 50 before he has to do that second exit that you're claiming that we said he needs to do. But I want to assure you, and all of you, right, and you always say you never believe me, but I want to assure you, I want to make this comment, and I want to be as transparent as possible, right? We actively look for ways, you may hear different, right, whatever, but yes, the UDC is black and white, even the code books we use are black and white, but, intelligent folks try to look for ways to see, are you still meeting the intent, right? So we move projects forward, and you just listed a bunch there that, and even though you say, well, the school waited, it was a year, right? But initially, what we never said is the school started without anything, right? Without a plat, without permits or anything. But we met with that group.
They're not required to have a plat or or required to have a permit. Now, we gave them a temporary, at-risk permit.
A temporary site permit, but they are required to have a building permit. They don't escape from that, right? The platting may be.
Yeah, but we had already continued. We knew they were out there. I mean, we knew. I mean, I don't want to go into all that.
The point I'm making is that we, like with any other developer, we try to find a way to work to move the development forward. Whether expediently or not, we try to find a way to move development forward without.
And Pusley.
Okay, well, before we go beating up staff too badly, I want to just say, you know, and I thought our job as council members was to try to help move things forward in this community. That's one of the reasons I got on here to begin with, is to try to do everything I could to help move whatever this city was trying to do forward at a quicker pace. But, and we have made accommodations for developers. Every time I turn around, we're changing zoning. We're, every developer that's come before us since we've been here wants to rezone property from RS6 to R4.5 so they can build smaller houses on smaller lots and make more money. And we don't even question that anymore. We just do it. And so this particular developer came to me because they know me, and I'm not afraid to admit that. And so all I did was turn around to staff and asked, how can we put this together as quickly as we possibly can? And so staff has been working to try to do that. It's in Councilman, I was told like you originally that it was in your district, and I called you and said, hey, are you aware of this? And you said, well, it's not in my district, it's in, so I called Councilman Hernandez and ask for his input. So anyway, all I'm trying to do is help us do what I thought we were supposed to try to do, and that's help move things forward. I don't think I was here when we did the deal you're talking about, Roland, with I don't think I was here. No. That must have been some time back. But anyway, it's been a complicated process to move this forward. They got hung up in both city and county bureaucracy. The county was wanting to hold this up because the county wanted us to come in and put sewer systems into all these lots out in the rural areas before they got annexed. And in fact, one of the commissioners came and talked to me about it. And we met in Al's office and we said, well, we can't do that. So anyway, I just hope that we could move this process forward to try to help these folks out and get them off high center. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and item 23, let's open it up for public comment. Anyone have public comment on item number 23?
Moses Mastagasi, 8017 Barley Dock. So I'm also the chairman of the CI committee. Sorry I wasn't here to support Al's request for additional funds for our committee to do the right work, but being the CI chairman, this is why I'm kind of here. I'm a little disturbed by this. I'm a land developer. We're pro-growth, and I want the land developer to do well, but ultimately I don't understand this process. I've done a lot of land developing here, and at the end of the day, what I'm asking is that if this process is allowed to moving forward, then change the process to where when I come to annex, that I can get one reading, because I went through hell and back 4 years ago. And I don't know if y'all remember that, but we had over 100 people here talking about me annexing in the London area. What I'd also like to state is that, yes, these people have a plat. Currently, this plat is not approved by the county, so the county commission has not approved this construction plans as of today. Your interlocal agreement that I had to go through on Gemini that took me 18 months to go through with the county and give them a 10-acre detention pond, because that's what the county required, because the city doesn't have jurisdiction in looking at construction plans while it's in the county. All we're asking as a development community, and this comes from the Builders Association, from all the other developers, is that if this is the new standard, then let's make it policy. Allow us to start development, allow us to finish the development, and then potentially come annex if we choose to. I mean, this doesn't make any sense to me. I was forced to put 2 entrances when I developed 161 lots in Kings Landing, and I wasn't able to record a plat until I had 2 entrances. Contrary to Al over here, I don't think he's going to count when you hit 51 lots. I don't think the people buying the lots are going to count to see if they're under 50, to see if the roads are there. At the end of the day, We support annexation. Charlotte Estates is doing it the right way. I think you guys got a little confused on Caroline Estates. Caroline Estates annexed after their plans were approved, but they haven't started the neighborhood, and I would hope that Planning Commission and the city would ask them that they meet city standards. We don't need a Flower Bluff 2.0. We need a city to grow properly. There's over 2,000 acres here. We're a primary landowner of this area. We don't want to see a neighborhood annexed without roads, infrastructure, drainage, and then us be forced to do it the right way next door. That's the problem here. All we're asking as the land development community is that they meet city standards if you're going to annex. If they started prior to annexing, then they meet county standards, but prior to you annexing and recording that plat, please provide this community that they meet city standards.
Thank you, Mr. Mostagasi. Anyone else have public comment on item number 23?
Good afternoon. How are you? I'm Linda Miklinchek. I'm with LM and JM Investments. Thank you. As he mentioned, they've gone through HELL and back. Well, I've been there twice that on this particular project. We started out with the county 2 years ago. When the county decided in the middle of everything that we needed to go through the city. When we tried to, we got our plat approved through the city. At that time, we thought we were doing everything correctly. I did reach out to Juan Pimentel with the county, never returned my call. I have a slew of emails where he never returned my call. All he told me was that the city was the one in charge of the plat, that I had to go through the city because now the new city manager wanted to follow the rules of annexing if you're going to tie into city water. So all along, when we started this 2 years ago, we were under the impression we were going through the county, following the county rules, and that we were under a water contract, okay? I've tried to call Mr. Zanoni's office multiple times. I've tried to reach out to Connie Scott. I've tried to meet with Brent Chesney. I have spoken with you, Gil, a few times, so I'm surprised of that particular situation, but Mike Husley was the only one, after trying to reach out to people numerous times for help on this, because our development got caught up in the middle of the new changes that Mr. Zanoni wanted to make, and I apologize that people think that we are trying to do something that we're not. We don't associate in the circle, so therefore I feel like we don't play with the others in the group that are texting everybody on the council trying to oppose this situation of us moving forward. We are ready for water. We need water today, not tomorrow. I mean, I feel like the city and the county have helped put us in this situation. All of our infrastructure is in place. We were already supposed to tie into the city water. We were told that when our plans were submitted back January 19 of 23, that we needed to take our water plans out of our plan because Charlotte Estates was bringing in the water. Now Charlotte Estates is not bringing in the water, so we're like sitting ducks out here with a subdivision with infrastructure and no water. That's why I was told that there would be 2 meetings held so that I can move forward and get water to our property. I've done everything within our power to do things right, as we always do. We've been in business for 25 years. We've we've done several developments. One of the developments that we've currently been helping with is the Promenade, and it's a beautiful neighborhood. I have pictures of the London Ranch Estates that I would like to share with you that will show what the end product will look like. But we are desperate for help on this. I don't know how we got here. It's not that we put the cart before the horse, as you want to say. We didn't do that. We went to every single person to try to get assistance on the new way that Mr. Zanoni wanted to move the city with the city utilities. And this is where we are today.
Thank you. Ms. Michnelchuk.
And I would like for y'all to look at our project, the renderings.
Councilman Hernandez.
Just so you understand, my frustration's not with you. It's with our staff and how this all kind of transpired. So, and plus this has reflection on other situations. And so I want to make sure that we're accommodating what you need, and that's why I said I was for the annexation, but it's going to cause other issues. And, oh, please, Mike, please.
My impression was that this was going to be a meeting where we were going to have both meetings and we were not going to have to come back in January, and that I was going to be able to submit for zoning, submit for my reimbursement agreement, and get all done, because I have been fighting this for 2 years, and that they would have 2 meetings and one today, and tomorrow I can start that water line, because I need water today. Today.
And I understand. Like I said, frustration's not with you. It's how this all came about.
And I agree. There
Right.
needs to be more communication.
And there's processes, like, for example,
Exactly.
the
But it has
amendment
to
to the master plans and those kind of things, which, if you don't follow those processes, it creates issues in future aspects. So, like I said,
And we wanted to follow that process. We did. We went to all the right places, but we did not get the correct information till midstream. So therefore, we've been done a disservice by allowing us to start and be in debt over $6 million on a project, and then us stopped in the middle of it with no water to our property.
No, and I completely sympathize. I just,
And I don't
and
understand.
we don't have any control over
Yeah.
the county, right? We really don't. Honestly, I'm wondering how we communicate sometimes with the county.
Yeah, I understand, because I've tried to, it took me 5 months to get through to Brent Chesney just to stop, because I was supposed to be here in March, getting zoning and everything, and because it's been held up, bureaucracy, politics, it's unfortunate that there can't be a better solution, a better system in place. So that's all I have.
All right,
I pray that y'all will move to pass this and let us get past getting water to our development and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here for public comment?
Yeah, well, it was regarding what she said.
Okay.
So I was.
Pause 1 second, Mr. Bell. Go ahead, Mr. Hunter.
Well, I was going to ask the developer a question. Ma'am, I guess my concern is you've been in business for 25 years, and this is a process that hasn't changed much at all in 25 years. In fact, we've brought in this new group that is trying to change it. So where did we mess up, and how did we get to this point? Because I'm unclear on how that happened.
Typically, all the developments out in London have been on a water contract, and that was our understanding. We were with the county. Our plat was with the county. We were meeting with Juan Pimentel, and there was no mention of annexation until months later. And as a matter of fact, we were frustrated because they stopped communicating with us. And we had many meetings with our engineer in his office, and then one day there was hardly no communication. And then we understood, well, that Mr. Zanoni had decided, sorry, but I'm just telling you what we were told, that they decided that anyone within the county that was going to need city services, which would be water, was no longer going to be on a water contract. So therefore, we would have to annex and rezone. And then we started that process in March. And then it got stuck with Brent Chesney and that group arguing over whatever it may be. And all along, we're over here with this project that we don't know what to do with. In the meantime, we had already submitted through the city, got our approval. All of our infrastructure's been approved through the city and done correctly, as Al can attest to that. But yeah, that's where it starts. I mean, they should have told us up front when we went into the county, and they should answer their phone and communicate with us so that we know what to expect and what's required of us. It's never been that way before with us in the county. So I'm not sure if it's the new city manager trying to implement the things in the city that maybe should have been implemented years ago. I'm not sure about that, but all I can speak to is my experience, and it's been a total nightmare.
I think state legislation in the recent years has caused some of these issues.
And that's fine. All along, I'm willing to do whatever the city and the county wanted me to do. It's just that you can't do this to us. You can't just stop somebody in the middle of a project with no water when you've been told that somebody was going to bring the water in and it was already approved. Our water plans were submitted to the city with our plans, and we were told January 19th of 2023 to take those plans out because Charlotte Estates was bringing the water in. When I had to find out myself, and because things were taking so long, that I had to go to Son George myself and ask him, you know, are you bringing the water in? Because the city is telling me that you're bringing the water in, and I'm way ahead of you. Nothing is going on your property, and I need water. And he's like, well, no, I don't have any plans for 6 months. And I'm like, oh gosh, I'm gonna need water like right away. So then we started the communication with Bria and our engineer with the city to take over the plans from Charlotte Estates. And Son George at the time sent them to us, and the plans. And then Bria and the engineer started working on that to get us approved. But it's been since March. We were supposed to be here at this meeting many, many months ago, and we're here today at the end of the year. And I mean, I'm begging y'all not to continue doing this to us. I mean, we have lost, you talk about numerous amounts of money we have lost, and it is not due to something that we chose to do on our own. We took all the right steps, called all the people that we knew to try to get help and answers to what the new city manager wanted to implement. And this is where we are today. Mike Pusley, I just praise him because he has been a godsend to us. If he had not started organizing meetings for us and trying to help us get the right answers, I don't know where we'd be today. We'd still be out there floundering, trying to figure it out because we can't get people to call us back.
Well,
And it's
y'all didn't
really,
call
really
me.
sad. Well, I think I had looked up for numbers for everyone, and I was trying to make calls. Some of them I did call and no calls back, but I don't remember if I called you or not, Mr.
Well,
Hunter.
I do try
Probably
to
not.
keep my phone number secret nowadays.
But when Mr. Pusley started helping us, and I had spoke to Gil Hernandez, and yes, he did refer me to Al, and that's when I started visiting with Al, and then Mr. Pusley, and got us a meeting going. And We're just trying to move our project forward and not trying to compete with the Mustagasis out there. And I know that maybe they're frustrated, but I'm frustrated too. You talk to every developer and we all have frustrations, and it really shouldn't be that way. It should
unfortunate.
It's a lot of money that we all have on the line, and it should be taken more seriously than what it is
I
when we make calls. And,
appreciate your response. Thank you.
and we are definitely trying to do things right. It's just, this is where we are today.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
McClintock.
I have a question for her. So when was the first time you came in contact with city staff?
It was,
Or you attempted to make
okay,
contact?
2 years ago is when we started this
With city staff, though?
project. Yes, sir, because my plat expires. It's been 2 years. Yes, sir. And I started before that with the county. Yeah, I mean, and I don't know, I'm sure, Mr. Zanoni, you probably have seen my messages on your recorder and your
So-
secretary. I have,
haven't.
I'm not, well,
Yeah.
I'm-
and I know y'all are busy and, you know, to deal
I'm
with.
checking now to see why I was unaware you called,
Yeah.
so, right.
Oh, well,
I mean, it's okay. I'm
well,
not trying to point the finger at
it's-
anybody.
It's
Yeah.
good. And I'm trying to just peel back the layers of the onion here, don't worry.
Yes, sir.
But I guess who were you directed to at city staff? Yeah, I mean, you contacted city staff
Okay.
2 years ago because you had that's when you applied for the plat, right?
Lynn Engineering is our engineer. So typically, he's not here today, but he had a conflict of coming.
No worries. You're good. I'm just trying to, once again, I'm trying to peel back the layers here.
We started with Juan Pimentel at the county.
4 years ago,
Yes, no, not 4 years ago, probably 3 years ago.
3 years ago. I'm just worried about the city. You're good with me.
Right,
I'm just trying to
okay.
get some facts, so, and then trying to keep this as brief as possible. So, Raul, this isn't a rush. We've been working on this for 2 years. It goes back to my argument.
It is a rush.
No, I'm making a point that we need to, somebody that frustrates us all at public comment on occasion, they indicated that we're not very good at customer service. And I'm
And I
saying.
have to agree with that.
There you go. And see, that's the frustration, and I can understand why Councilman Pusley jumps in, because all of a sudden now, it goes back, it's no different than the situation that we've had with NPM, that we've had with Richard Voss, that we've had, so here we are, we've put this person in a position where now they're desperate because
Exactly.
they kept going around in a bureaucratic loop for 2 years. And so now we're being put in a position now where we could exercise some compassion because of the challenges that we created, because this has been going on for 2 years. I mean, I feel like I'm missing a lot of the information here.
Oh, definitely. It would
So-
take us to sit down probably for 2 or 3 days
Yeah.
to explain to you what we've been through.
So,
And no one has given me any compassion. No one has bent any rules for me. Nobody has done anything for us.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McClintock. Mr. Bell.
My name is John Bell, 13750 Primavera, and I'm here on behalf of Charlotte, the developer of Charlotte Estates. And I would say that I've also represented in other matters related to this, Ms. Miklicek and L&M, and you're not paying this invoice, so I'm here with another developer. But we would also request your compassion in moving this ahead, because it has been a long and tedious project. My client has actually kind of partially shelved his project just because of all the delays waiting to go forward, but is ready to go forward. Ms. Miklicek was ready to put the water line in now, and so that's why the swap was made, even though Charlotte Estates is a little closer and would be typically the one to do it. But, and it's a combination of things, Mr. Bennett, that's really brought about this. It's the need to annex the roads from the county and get the county to request the annexation, which has taken some time. The requirement spurred by the changes in the annexation laws to where it wasn't sufficient just for the developer to sign an agreement to annex, but we actually have to annex before we get the reimbursement agreement done. And all these things have just taken time, and we're now more at the 11th hour for Ms. Miklicek, but also my client has been waiting a long time for this. The benefit is if you complete the annexation now, before year end, then it's part of the city of Corpus Christi on January 1, which is why most cities like to conclude annexations before the end of the year. So it's not only in the developer's interest, to get this done so they can get on the road with their projects, but it's also typical city action to have the annexations concluded by the end of the year, so it's part of the city limits by January 1. But things are complicated these days to get developments done, and I've worked with a lot of developments, and it happens, but we simply request that you proceed with the recommendation to approve these items jointly on one reading, because they really have been vetted and gone through for the last year and tried to get all this stuff put together. Be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
John, I want to ask your opinion. So, because of our inconsistency, so what do you think? Because you work for the city on occasion.
And other developers as well.
I understand,
Yes.
but I'm just asking, so now we come in that we make an exception due to, I guess, what could be our bureaucratic loop, so to speak, and then what happens to other developers as they come along, because all of a sudden, we put them in a position where we're compromising. That's really what I'm worried about. I'm worried about the inconsistency that we have, because we've required things from other developers, and I feel that we've been inconsistent. This would be inconsistent to the poor service that we've provided, and this is an example of the poor service that we've provided, and we're going to try and rectify it because, I've said, like I said it a while ago, I think that we don't take responsibility for the cost of lost revenue, that we don't take responsibility to the costs associated with the risk and interest payments that a developer has to make because of our bureaucracy and these bureaucratic loops. Now, we're going to go ahead and try and get this by the end of the year, and it's something I want to do, because I'm a business owner myself. It's just I'm worried about what happens tomorrow, that now, you know what, I need water. A developer says I need water, and what is it, I'm going to be required to have this access, this right-of-way, and I've got to be able to, I'm going to ask for special accommodations. I mean, that's the thing. What's going to happen when maybe I should ask Mr. Risley this, but
Actually, there
Well,
may be
other developments have been annexed to the city over the last year, in which the city council has done the zoning and the annexation and any other related development agreements all at the same meeting. This is not a first in that regard. In fact, I had requested it 6 months ago for Charlotte Estates because I had seen it 8 months ago done for another developer. And I had asked the city staff, is there a way to get the annexation and the zoning and everything queued up on one meeting agenda, so we're not coming in piecemeal by annexing the roads on 1 week, and then the next week coming back and annexing the property, and then the next week coming back and zoning the property, and then the next week coming back and approving the reimbursement agreement and doing it. It wasn't an idea with this development. It actually was done with prior developments. The only thing that I'm aware of that's unusual in this case is it being done on a one reading, which the city of Corpus Christi historically has done annexations on one reading when they were done before the end of the year. That was the impetus to get it done in one reading. Back in the good old days when you could annex by ordinance without a lot of other rigmarole. So I'm not aware of any particular changes or concessions that are being provided here. They still have to comply with all the plating ordinance, and no plat can be filed until the improvements are put in place, the systems are tested, and all that is done. No buildings can be issued, but building permits can be issued until plats are done. All that is still going ahead to schedule. It's, to my knowledge, the only real concession is doing this on one reading, which works for the developer and for the city.
Councilman, there may
And
be
keeps you from having to work next week.
Thank you, John.
there may be a solution to this, and
one possible solution is, while the annexation is not really a problem so much as it's the one reading ordinance authorizing the grid main construction and reimbursement agreement. That reimbursement agreement, to be legal because the master plan has not been amended, you would have to amend sections 1 through 4 of the ordinance to add the following statement to each section. Subject to the city's addition of the aforesaid 12-inch water line to the city's water transmission master plan. You'd have to add that section. And then it would only become effective at such time as it's added to the master plan. And it ought to be noted that the approval will only be effective after the amendment of that master plan. So if anybody else gets in line before that amendment, then they're going to have the first dibs on those funds because we're in the red. So as long as everyone understands that that's the condition you would have to put on it, I think you could approve it. 24.
Thanks,
That's what
John.
I'm referring to. 23, you don't need to make any amendments to. It would be 24 that you would have to make that amendment.
Anyone else here for public comment? All right, we'll close the window for public comment. I'll entertain a motion unless there's any other comments or questions.
I'll make a motion to approve.
23, we are focused strictly on 23 at this point.
Make a motion to approve the annexation or item number 23.
I'll second that.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any other comments or questions?
Here, I do. So what are the consequences of that, either Peter or Al? So so now that the requirements of, John said John said that they're gonna, obviously to have a, yeah, what does this do with regard to the requirements of, that we have of the development? Because right now, they don't have a county permit.
I'm sorry.
I'm really confused.
Ask again, what are you asking? What is this?
So what are the consequences associated with regards to the requirement that the property owner has to have? Like I said, when I went in there, I went out there, I mean, the renderings are beautiful, and I know their intent is there, and it's just, I just want to make sure that because then what comes up in my head is that, well, somebody can go and they can start a process through the county, then all of a sudden we're going to accommodate them, but yet it's not going to be the typical standards that we have. So they're still going to have to fulfill the standards that we make every other developer do now that we've annexed it.
So let me make this point. Their public improvements have been reviewed and approved, Councilman, and I want to paint a bigger picture so you all understand, right? Because again, everyone pointed to development services, and you made some very serious accusations that you guys had given poor customer service. So I'm going to review this with you so you can kind of understand where we are. She mentions that, the developer mentions she was engaged in the county in 21. She didn't come for our preliminary plat application until February 2022. Follow this. We had our TRC meeting like we do with every other plat the following week, and we send out comments the following week after that. We sent out plat comments on March 31st. We didn't get comments back from the county until the month of May. No problem. We went back and forth. From May until November, we didn't hear from the county. Juan, you gotta move here, because I don't normally bring plats or public improvements forward until I know the county, because the developer's right, the county hasn't approved it. Well, I didn't hear from the county, so either I move it forward, and the preliminary plat was moved forward with conditional approval. That was in November. Remember, she started in February, this is in November. She has her final plat she brought to us, developer brought the final plat in January of 23. The county, Juan finally responded, and we approved it. It was a conditionally approved in February 23, so that was just 2 months. The county is involved in this process, so I don't mind if you point to development services and say, you guys suck, but you got to see the bigger picture, right? It's not just
Very well.
me. It's not just my group. It's not just the operating departments. We have to coordinate with many tentacles that need to touch the development process, but everyone only sees development services as the evil villain here. So we facilitated, and even though the developer mentioned you didn't help me at all, well, we facilitated, right? We wouldn't be here if we didn't facilitate, period. So I just want to make that point, right? So you say, what is she required to do? Her public improvements are improved, or reviewed and approved. The county commented on them and the city commented on them. So she's required to build the plans that were approved.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry, I want to correct something. I did say the county was bad in this scenario.
I'm just making, I mean, we don't always suck, right? It's not always me.
Hey,
right?
don't use that terminology.
So, are you done?
Well, first off, Al, you and I can finish this because I obviously we've had our discussions, and I learned long ago that, and particularly in my position or whatever, whether I'm in your position, I take none of the praise and all of the blame. And regardless of everyone that we touch, which could be every developer in town, everything we're